Well, hello there, everybody. I'm Ben. As you can probably tell by what's right there in the background, I've recently received a Creality Ender 3 3D printer as a gift. Today I thought I'd share my thoughts and opinions on it in the form of a review, just to add to the large amount of reviews already on YouTube. As a first-time builder of this 3D printer, or in fact any 3D printer, in my opinion the assembly went pretty smoothly. The only main annoyance I remember having was trying to screw the horizontal extrusion onto the bracket with like the extruder on it and stuff, because I had to take that bracket in half to be able to get at the screws to screw on the extrusion. Other than that, it went pretty smoothly. As for the instructions, I found them pretty easy to interpret, although it did take a little bit of work sometimes to figure out what they were trying to get you to do. A couple times the instructions did forget small things like which screws to use for the cases of this power supply. You're supposed to screw it on with the silver ones, but that wasn't mentioned. But in those cases, it was fairly obvious, at least in my opinion, which ones you had to use. I should also probably mention that the Ender 3 that I received had a few changes from the ones that I had seen in the reviews. The first of these changes is that instead of the build tack surface, or faux build tack surface, being stuck directly to the bed, it was stuck on a sheet of like the bendy stuff that they use in circuit boards, I think. I don't know, I'd seen it mentioned in a couple other 3D printer reviews, but it means that instead of having to chip it prints with your scraper, you can take the bed off and bend it to pop them off. The second of the two changes is that the one that I received has a silicone boot around the heater block instead of the Captain tape, which was used in the older versions. I can see why some people might be annoyed at Creality for changing various parts of their 3D printers, but I'm not complaining because the upgrades that mine came with were for the better and not for the worse, luckily. Now, let's see how it prints. Let's start off with this benchy. It looks pretty good to me, except that there is a little bit of ringing, but other than that, it did quite well with the overhangs and everything else. I'm wondering if the ringing is caused by the feet that it's on, because I 3D printed like the special feet to help reduce noise, but they make it so the printer vibrates a bit more, so that could be the cause of the ringing, especially because the other two smaller benchies don't have as much ringing. As I just alluded to, I also printed two other smaller benchies. The medium-sized one I printed at 0.5mm layer height, and it looks quite nice. And the smallest one I printed at 0.2mm layer height, just for fun. I also have printed out this great tree frog model that I found on Thingiverse, links in the description, by the way, at 0.05mm layer height, and it turned out fabulous. While browsing Thingiverse, I also found this great model of a Sierpinski's triangle. I decided to print a large one for my math teacher to put on his wall of cool objects that he has, and I also printed a smaller one for myself. The larger one took 3 days to print, and in my opinion it turned out great. And the smaller one only took 12 or so hours to print, and it turned out just as great in my opinion. Over my time of owning the printer, I have had some issues, the main one being the PTFE coupling near the extruder. For about the first week of printing, I had no problems with it, but then it started becoming loose, so the Bowden tube could wiggle around, making it so it didn't retract properly. To fix this, I'm going to get some new couplings off of Amazon and some Capricorn tube, so I can hopefully get better print quality and maybe even be able to print some flexible filament. I've also done a few upgrades to the printer, like adding on the Hero Me fan duct, a BL Touch, putting the fan cover over the electronics, of course. You don't want any bits of filament falling in there and getting shredded. A filament guide to help keep the filament from rubbing on the Z-rod, and the feet, which I mentioned earlier. I'm probably going to make another video going more in depth about all the upgrades, and I might make one to see if the feet are in fact the cause of the ringing or if it's a printer problem. I've also flashed the newest version of Marlin onto it to make it so I can use the BL Touch, and also, more importantly, so that thermal runaway protection is enabled so this doesn't happen. So, now you're probably wondering if I would recommend this printer, and to answer that, I certainly would. All of the issues it has are small enough that it doesn't hinder it from making great prints right out of the box. So, that's the end of the video. If you liked it, please consider liking and subscribing. Leave any suggestions or thoughts you have in the comments down below. All of the links to the Thingiverse things that I have shown today will be in the description, as well as a GearBest link to the Ender 3, and some Amazon links to the filament that I've used. Again, thanks for watching and have a great day.